that voice. It's a pleasure to be here. Boy, you are a busy crew. That was kind of a treat to hear all that you're doing. I'm pretty impressive. And I was remembering the last time I addressed this fruit was with Vern Patrick when we were working on the Ronald McDonald House. So it's a treat also to hear that you're still participating in the Ronald McDonald House. So thanks for that. Yeah, it's still going strong, and it's great. Like some of the things that we all get to be involved in. Well, I've been with JBAR for a number of years as the strategic planning person, sort of organizational development, donor relations, community outreach, a little bit of this and that, because that's what I want to nonprofit, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So I've got to really, it's the first time I've really had an opportunity to work with kids in this way. My background is healthcare. So coming to JBAR was just really an interesting and wonderful opportunity to see what that organization is doing for kids in the community. We have a number of programs, all oriented around youth, trying to meet youth where they are, serve them in the best way we can to move them forward into adulthood. So we start with, and this kind of comes from my healthcare background, we think of the programs in kind of segments. So the first way we think of helping kids is prevention. So I'm going to just cue this up and let Stephanie talk a little bit deeper about the programs. But how we prevent kids from getting in trouble is by making sure they have a lot of support. So making sure they have mentors, people around them that love and care about them. And so for us, that's Big Brothers, Big Sisters. That's the program for us that does that. When kids trip or fall, they have an unexpected teen pregnancy, we have a program for them to support them while they're going through that pregnancy. So what we've tried to do over these many years is just put things in place that are going to help kids be healthy while they get to adulthood, and then help kids that, in the juvenile justice system as well. So in a nutshell, we can send you away with our annual report and then an overview. I put some of these on your table, here's some up here too, of the programs and services that we have. You take a look at that later. But Stephanie's going to come up and talk to you in depth about the programs and services we have.
Can I be up here or
something to lean on? Hi, I'm Stephanie, and I'm the director of JBAR Youth Services. I've been there about 30 years, so I'm dating myself. I used to come up to Redmond and work with the Redmond kids, and while we were talking to Todd earlier, I had mentioned when we were in Bend, everybody would say, oh, send the kid to this agency or this agency or this agency. And when you'd come up to Redmond, they'd say, well, could you go see Joe up at the Pee Wee Rodeo? He could really help with this. And it was so personable, and it was so much more pleasant to come to Redmond. And it was the old, it was just old Bend, old Redmond, I guess, old Redmond really. And it was really fun. And so started out working with kids, now I'm in administration. As Peggy said, we've got prevention, intervention, and then treatment. And so prevention is Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And we're trying to change the trajectory of a kid's life. We were working with, there was a counselor at Evergreen, I think, and she called and said, hey, we have an 8-year-old, he's crawling under his desk at school. And he was being raised by his brothers who were in the justice system. And the mom was working till 11 at night, so she wasn't there. And so we hooked him up with a big brother, and he didn't get involved in the juvenile justice, and he graduated high school, and he was the first one in his family to go on to college. And so that's, when I'm talking about changing the trajectory of a youth's life, that's what we hope to do. We don't always succeed in everything, but we try. And then for intervention is the next level. Well, I should also talk about one other. Kindred Connections is another prevention program, and it's kind of like Big Brothers, Big Sisters on steroids. So the churches came to us, there were about 10 churches, and they said, we want to do something, it's our Fostering Hope initiative, and they wanted to take kids into their own home. So We had a girl at Grandma's house, for example, who had a lot of problems with drugs and alcohol. She had a baby, and then she relapsed, and her probation officer found out about it. They made her spend 8 days in detention. And so what to do with the baby, Kindred Connections stepped in and they raised the baby for that 8 days. And then they were like a big mentor to her when she got out. And they were like their family support. And so it's really fun working with them. We've been working with them now for about 6, 7 years. So that's a great program. A prevention program in terms of then the Department of Human Services doesn't have to go in, take the baby, go to court, put it in foster care. It's an agreement between the youth, on that case, she was 19, and the home at Kindred Connections. So, but they do a lot of family support. So delightful program to work with. And they do a lot of family support, and they're working with, I think they said 28 churches now. So that's prevention. Intervention is, we have programs for homeless and runaway kids, and we just started a couple years ago a shelter in Redmond. It's called Canal House because we're not very creative, and it's on Canal Boulevard. So that was the easiest, and it can house up to 6 kids. And the manager there is fabulous. If you ever want a tour, please feel free to call us. She'd be happy to show you it. Very nice, very nicely done, and work with a lot of kids in Redmond. And I just looked at the numbers, and some of the kids initially that we saw stayed there short term. Some of the kids later are staying there much longer. And we do family mediation. We believe in getting the kids back with their parents, back at home, having a relationship with parents if possible. So sometimes it's just short-term shelter, sometimes it's longer term, sometimes the kids have no place to go to. And so we work with all of that, and we work with school counselors in the high schools. And then we have, under those shelter programs, we have Canal House in Redmond, we've got the Loft in Bend, and then we also have Grandma's House. And they're all considered transitional, so we're trying to help kids get on their feet and give them a place to stay and save some money. We require or request that they're either in school or they're working. And if they're working, we want them to save up to 75% of their earnings, so they've got, we call it a self-investment fund. And again, then they can go out, get an apartment, be a good community member, a good employee, a good partner, and that's our goal, is we want successful transitions if at all possible. And so Grandma's House is also part of that transitional shelter. They take pregnant and parenting teens, and then we saw a lot of girls who were, believe it or not, this has been going on for a long time. They were with 16, they'd been sexually abused, they ended up in a hotel with a 40-year-old man, or something was going on. And so there was some trafficking stuff. And I was like, oh, there's not trafficking here in Bend or Redmond. But then, I've met numerous kids, and I realized that it is a problem. It's just kind of quiet. And where I live and with my own kids, I didn't see that. And so one girl who speaks a lot for our anti-trafficking program grew up in Bend, went to Mountain View, and ended up getting trafficked out of Portland for 3 years. And she tells her story. And it's really fascinating to listen to. And so we have a whole bunch of intervention programs. We also take kids out of foster care with the Department of Human Services and give them independent living skills. And so they're in, Jefferson County, Deschutes County, and then Crook County as well. And so we work with kids coming out of foster care. So there's a whole bundle of intervention programs. Did I miss any? Oh, housing. Yeah. Housing is also intervention. Last couple years, the governor had an executive order saying, look, we want to get everybody housed, and we were seeing kids on the streets. We do some street outreach, like I said, family mediation, short-term shelter. And we found that kids needed longer-term housing, and so we worked with the county and Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council, and we got the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Project through HUD, and so that's helping kids get into apartments. Rapid rehousing, again, that helps some of our gals coming out of anti-trafficking, as well as the homeless kids that maybe are transitioning out of shelter and need a place to live. So we do some housing stuff too, and then we go into treatment, and that's the Boys Ranch. And the Boys Ranch is kind of what started J-Bar-J that most people are thinking about. The Boys Ranch treats felons, and they've committed crime, all the boys there. We have about 50 boys in total. We can have in 2 different programs. One's in detention, J5, and then the Boys Ranch. We're registered with the Oregon Department of Education because we have to provide education for them. We did a vocational school because we wanted to teach the boys some skills, not only the cognitive behavioral work that we do to help them change their thinking, but we wanted to get them some skills. So there's all these different modules that they can get involved in, whatever their interest is, from electricity, electrician, to framing, to drywall, plumbing. It's really fun to go see the vocational school. And again, if any of you are interested, we have a huge vocational school. Love to show it to you at any time if anybody is in Bend and wants to see that. So, and we had a Kiwanis Key Club with our boys for a while, because we had a staff person who had been in Kiwanis and been a Kiwanis Key Club member, and she was a teacher with us. But unfortunately, after she left, it was really hard to maintain that. We didn't have any other connection. But for a few years, we had a Kiwanis Key Club, and it was probably the only one around where the felons were the Key Club members. But the goal was that when they left, then if they moved back to Ontario, there was a Kiwanis there that they could have a mentor. And so it was really fun. And so that brings me to telling you a little bit about the cognitive behavioral. So we call it accountability-based cognitive restructuring. And having been at J-Bar-J for 30 years, I've seen lots of kids who come in and later come back and say, yeah, I attended the Boys Ranch, and it was a firefighter up in Culver who came in and said, I just wanted to bring my son who's 8 and show him where I grew up. And he said to me he still had his quilt that the Ladies First Presbyterian Church makes for all the boys, and they get to leave with it along with his graduation certificate. And so we love seeing people in the community who came through a program and now they're doing well. Again, our goal is that we want them to learn the information, be good community members, good employees, good partners, good parents, all of that fun stuff. And so, and as Peggy said earlier, every youth needs a caring adult in their life, and that's what we've discovered. But let's talk a little bit about the criminal thinking and how we got to accountability-based cognitive restructuring. So researchers went into prison and they said, why do people commit crime? They did the largest study ever. It was the St. Elizabeth study. It was Dr. Samanow and Dr. Yokelson. And they were 2 psychologists, and they said, is it because they grew up in poverty? Is it because their parents used drugs or alcohol? Were they abused? And the first chapter in their book, The Criminal Personality, is the reluctant converts, because it was none of the above. The top risk factor for criminal behavior was how they think. And the next risk factor was negative peer association, so who they're hanging out with. So what I would always tell parents is, understand how your kids think and understand who they're hanging out with. So the thinking errors, they identified 36 different thinking errors and probably 20 tactics that people use to avoid taking responsibility. Tactics are like minimizing, lying, victim stance, assent with no intent to change, silence, blaming, diversion, excuse making, attack, you name it. And it's really fascinating to read through all of the tactics and then go, oh, I can't use those anymore. That was my favorite. And you hear those tactics in everyday life, blaming, excuse making, victim stance. And there's a really fascinating clip of Dr. Samanow talking to a criminal in prison. And he said, well, why are you here? And he said, well, I'm here because when I was 9, my parents divorced. And he started to go into this story, and Dr. Samanow said, well, you're 35 and you committed murder. And hundreds of kids' parents divorce when they're 9. They don't do what you did. And so the premise is that people know right from wrong. Our kids know right from wrong. They're choosing wrong along the way. And so our job is to teach them to think in a different way, hold them accountable. And so teaching them to think in a different way, there's 2 sides to it. One, we have to provide structure for them in all of our shelters, in our residential treatment. And so it's like being good parents. They get up in the morning, they have to take a shower, they have breakfast, then they go to school, and when they come back, that's where it differs. They may have to, after they finish their homework, have to do a group, or they may have to have individual work to focus on their goals and what they want to learn. And so then, so that's the behavioral part. The cognitive part is talking to them about how they frame things. So as you're driving here, somebody pulls out in front of you. You have a choice. You have a choice to smile and wave at them and hope they have a better day, or you have a choice to get angry and shake your fist at them. And most healthy, happy people have learned to reframe, to just go, yeah, they're having a bad day. I hope they have a better one, and smile and wave, because they're taking accountability for themselves. And so what we're trying to teach the kids is take responsibility for yourself. You don't have to be who you were yesterday. You may have been abused. I am awfully sorry. We will get to that. But first, you have to be a good person, and you have to treat others well, and you have to understand that. And so we're trying to get them to reframe every decision they make, and we're trying to talk to them about that. You don't have to be who you were yesterday. You can be somebody different, and you can be whatever you want as long as you're willing to work hard at it. And so, again, we're not always successful, and what I always have to tell young staff is, you're not there to be their friend. You're there to be a coach, a teacher, a mentor. You're there to give them information. They may choose to use it or not. It's not about you. It's about them and their journey. And so we give the information to kids, and we hope they use it. And then sometimes, like, I went to get my hair done. This was a while back, because it's not done now. And the hairstylist said, well, where do you work? And I said, J. And she said, oh, my husband went there when he was younger, and we use all that stuff that you guys taught him with our own kids. And it's so lovely to hear that there's kids in the community that went to one of our programs, took the information in, and they use it, and they're doing really well. And so those are the fun stories. I could tell you tons of stories of being in the community at a brew pub, and the waitress said, oh, I went to the Loft, and now I have my own apartment. I mean, I'm at Starbucks. I'm giving away my secrets of where I go. And she goes, well, trying to make conversation, where do you work? And I said, J. And she said, oh, yeah, I went. She was another one from the Loft, and how well she was doing now. So that's the good news. Some kids don't always make it. We had one gentleman who came back. He did make it really, really well, and he was like managing 16,000 call centers throughout the United States, and he was working for Capital One, I want to say. And he called and said he wanted to come back and talk to the kids, and I said, absolutely. Like, why? And he said, well, because I was a boy there years ago. When he came, he also brought a letter from another boy that was with him at the same time, and he was in prison. And he said, the beginning of the letter said, listen to these guys, there are no do-overs once you end up in prison. And so it was really nice for him to bring that letter and share both sides of it. Like, you have a choice. And so that's what we're always trying to teach kids. Take accountability, you have choices. I could talk all day, so do any of you have any questions?
Yes.
I'm having any trouble getting staff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's really hard. Yes.
My question is, do you have like some statistics that show the success rate with which versus other programs maybe for the same audience?
Yes, we do something called performance quality improvement, and so we're tracking data, and we're always reviewing the data, and if there's a problem, then we do a program improvement plan, and so, boy, there's so many different programs, I'd be hard-pressed to pull some data out. The old data I have was, I think it was about 86% no recidivism for the boys, but that was a few years ago. But we did get accredited with a national organization. It's called the Council on Accreditation. And it's kind of a big deal. There's only 8 in the entire state of Oregon. And we're the only ones this side of the mountains. And they, they want to see certain standards throughout the entire country for our types of programs. They set the standards. And so we track like moving to a lower level of care. We do interviews with the kids. Have they learned skills? We do, you know, were they able to go to a safe exit? There's all kinds of different data points that we track. And then we also track something called significant incidents. And so if a youth runs away, or we have horses in one of our programs, and I kept seeing all these incident reports of kids getting stepped on or bit or knocked over, and I was like, what is going on? And so that's an example of using that data, and then we brought somebody out that was a horse guy and a safety guy, and he goes, wow, I see the problem. And I'm like, what? And he said, well, they're going in to feed the horses, and there's 7 horses, and there's a pecking order, you know, and some horses are the top horses, and the kids are just getting caught in the crossfire when they're trying to eat. And so he said, you just need to throw the hay over the side. And we did that, and all those incident reports went away. So that's just a quick example of, you know, we're always looking at that data and going, what's going on? And the staff turnover can destabilize some of the programs. And so we would see higher incident reports when we have too much staff turnover. And we did an analysis and went, why are we having all this staff turnover? And it was the hiring. And so then we shored up our hiring practice. But it was hard, especially during COVID, because we're 24/7 like a hospital. So you got to have people there to supervise the kids. So it was really hard. Coming out of it, now it's turning into more of an employer's market right now, not an employees. But the last few years, it was an employees market. So that's, we're always looking at that, and we're tracking data to say, what is our turnover rate? How do we improve it? What do the younger people need to hear from us? It's fascinating. The new generation is fascinating. So, other questions? Yeah.
So how many boys do you have at your board training? How long do they stay in the either education system in the county or
We have a contract with Ben Lapine, but we are registered with the Oregon Department of Ed, and so we are accredited through Cognia. It's, again, a national accrediting body, so we can issue diplomas and give credits. And we also do GED testing on our site, and they can get credits for that. So that's a little bit about the school piece. And yes, we have teachers, and we have to, it's really fascinating because you kind of have to manage that a little bit, because sometimes we get older kids and they have their high school diploma or their GED, and we have to put them all into vocational school. And then other times we have younger kids and they all have to be in the classroom, and they can do some of the vocational stuff, but it's not their primary. And so you kind of got to manage the teachers as well. So it's fascinating. So that was one half of it. What was the other half?
So I'm in the hold on. Are you getting there?
Yeah, we can have up to 20 in the detention pod, which is short-term stabilization. So they're oftentimes coming out of prison, or they're coming from another program where they had gotten trouble. And so they're there for 2 to 3 months, and that can have up to 20 kids there. And I think he's got about 15 or 16 right now. And then we have the Boys Ranch is licensed for 30, and 3 of those are independent living. So the other 27 are treatment. and I think he's got 26 right now. So he just was screening because we had, I want to say 8 or 9 graduations from the program, which is really good. And so now he's screening and taking in some more kids, and we just talked about that yesterday. So yeah. Oh, and how long do they stay? Used to be about 1.5 years, but the Oregon Youth Authority, who we contract with, keeps wanting us to shorten that. So, so I'd say closer to 1 year now, maybe. Some of the treatment, some of the kids' thinking errors are way worse than others. So they're all individualized programs.
Yes.
You have a horse show. Really Teddy came here and know and we get. Is that still going on?
We love Tate and Tate, by the way, and I miss them when they quit. But the horse show this year did not happen. And it was the first year in probably 30 years that it didn't happen. And what happened for us was that the United States Equestrian Federation, they changed the mileage rules. And so where there used to be maybe 15 horse shows in a region, it could go up to 30. And so it diluted it. And so where we normally would have 500 entries, we only had 300. And we weren't convinced that we could make money. It was either going to break even or make a little bit of money, and we didn't want to lose money. So a month before, so people could get their refunds on hotels, Airbnbs, all that stuff, we decided to cancel. And it was really a hard decision. But if we do it next year, we're going to make it bigger, better. We'll either do 1 week and we'll get some, I've talked to Commissioner Adair, and she was like, well, why don't you go to Sand Rings, and then you could give up some of that water to North County so they can grow food. And I'm like, well, we're going to look at all that. So we continue to look at that, and we're going to do a big survey next month with a horse show person, and she's going to call all the trainers and kind of, again, I'm a data person. Like, can I get the data? Show me what's going to work and what's not going to work. So I don't want to make a guess on it. I want some data. So Adrian's going to do that for us next month. Other questions? Well, thank you. We love Kiwanis. You guys are fabulous. It was so fun being here today. I love the happy dollars. And it's so pleasant being in just a lovely, quaint town, and you guys all know each other, and you're just very pleasant. And we appreciate all the support for youth that you guys do. We want to collaborate with all the different programs. We have some ideas about collaboration moving forward, so we work strongly with a lot of the programs that you're talking about. So anyway, thank you very much.
We have to have another picture.
Another picture.
Yeah, we can never take too many pictures, apparently.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, handcrafted.
I'm too tall.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, just smile. All you have to do is smile. Smile pretty. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.